A new free and local AI video model is changing the way how you can make movies. It allows you to easily remove or replace actors in your footage, change the style of your video, generate entirely new shots from text or images, or even change the camera movement in existing footage. To demonstrate how all these tools can work together, we filmed an entire short film on a phone and used this AI model to transform me into a man who one day wakes up to find himself transformed into a monstrous vermin. And in this video, we're going to share all the techniques and workflows we built to create this short film with you. So whether you want to level up your AI filmmaking skills or turn yourself into a cute anime woman, we got you covered. Oh, and make sure to watch to the end for the full short film. As a base for our workflows, we're going to use the free open source Vram 2.1 video model. This is not a model that can do everything, but rather it is like the code foundation for a lot of other AI models that are based on it that can do all the things that you would want from an AI video model. Like for example, text to video, image to video, or even frame interpolation. But my favorite version of this model is the fun variation, which allows you to use control nets to guide video generation. For example, we can extract the poses of our character from our input video and then generate a new video where the character follows the same exact movement. And the advantage of using a pose control net is that the model has a lot of freedom to change the character since we're only providing the basic bone structure. Compare that to the line art control net where we extract outlines from the original video. Here we give the model much more detail about the structure, so it has less freedom to make changes. A good middle ground is often the depth control net, where we extract the estimated depth information from the original video. It's really good at maintaining the composition and camera movement, but you just give it a bit more freedom compared to a line art control net. Let's look at an example from our short film. Since we want to transform me into a beetle, we should give Vram 2.1 as much freedom as possible to change my body structure. And that's why we are using the pose control net. This works okay, but we face three problems. The character looks different in every shot, the camera movement doesn't match the original input video, and the surrounding scene is completely different. And since we want to put the transformed character back on top of the original footage, the scene and the camera movement has to match as closely as possible. So let's solve these problems one by one. First, let's fix the camera movement. I've created an automatic workflow that combines the pose control net with a line art control net, but fades out the line art control net where the character is. And this way Vram 2.1 can freely change the character, but it still has enough information about the surrounding scene geometry so it can match the camera movement. Now the character is still not really consistent from shot to shot. There are a few ways to fix this. The first one would be to train a Vram 2.1 LoRa, but this is very resource intensive and we would need to rent some GPUs for that. The second option would be to use the Vase video model, which is also based on Vram 2.1. This one lets you input a reference image of your character or style while still allowing you to use control nets. And while this works really well for a lot of use cases, for our beetle it was just not good enough. I think it has a hard time understanding the anatomy of the beetle, and it also changes the environment, which is something that we don't want. So we went back to that fun model, because this one also lets you use a reference image as the first frame of your video. This way we can automatically extract the first frame of our video, use a simple inpainting workflow to change our character, and then generate the rest of the video based on that frame. And just look at these amazing results. Look at how well this worked. When we saw this, we knew we could shoot the entire short film this way. So now let me walk you through the process step by step, starting with the installation. All my workflows are created in ComfyUI, a free node-based interface for AI models. Installing it is very easy and we created a guide for that on our website. You just need to drag and drop the JSON file of the workflow you want to use into the ComfyUI window and it will load up the workflow. Now we have a lot of error messages because we're missing some custom nodes. But to install them, we can just go to the ComfyUI manager up here. Go to Install Missing Custom Nodes, select all of them and click Install. Once that is done, click Restart. Reload your window and the workflow is here. Before we can use this Inpainting workflow, we need some models. So with all my workflows, we are going to work from left to right. So let's zoom in here on the left side. You can find which ones you need in the node next to the model loader. So here we need the Flux Dev checkpoint. And for this one, the easiest way to install this is via the ComfyUI manager. Just go to Manager, Model Manager and search for Flux Dev FP8. And we want this version here by ComfyUI. Next, here's the place where you could load in your LoRa's, but we are going to look at that in a second. First, we need to install a ControlNet model for Flux. And I've been using this version right here that you can also just install via the manager. But now there's a new version, this one right here, that I would recommend using instead. So just go to this link here and download this file right here. Put it in ComfyUI, models, ControlNet. And I like to rename it so I actually know what it is. Back in the workflow, hit R to refresh the window and make sure that you select that model. Also that your Flux dev checkpoint is selected up here. Then you can run this workflow because this model here, the next model that we are going to need, will be downloaded automatically when you first run this workflow. We can use videos or images as inputs for this workflow. Right now you can see the video loader node is connected up here. If you would rather use images, you can just connect this node down here to this preview bridge up here. But I want to use an input video. This is the first frame of the video. And now we need to click run. This will now give us an error message, but that's exactly what we want because this now loaded the first image from this video into the preview bridge right here. And now we can just right click on that preview bridge, open in Mask Editor and just quickly select the area where we want to change the image. When you roughly selected your area, click Save, and now we can create a prompt for this area of the image. So let's turn myself into a detective. Let me quickly just run it, and you can see the result looks pretty cool. Sherlock Mumpets. Okay, let me quickly show you what happened here. So first, this node right here will just crop out the area where we actually want to change something. You can see this is the older version of this node. I personally had better results with that one. I might change that out in the future. This node will then feed this part of the image to the control net. So we're using the pose control net right here, and we're using the depth control net right here. And the most important settings are the weights down here. And in my experience, these settings work well for like 80% of images. And you can also try deactivating or bypassing one using Control B for image generation. When you have a great result, but you want a few more variations, you can also just change the seed here and click Generate again. And then it will give you another variation of your image. And yeah, this also looks pretty cool. But as you can see, the character is not consistent. Every time we run this, we get a different guy, right? So how do we fix that? The best approach is training a LoRa for the Flux image model. A LoRa is basically a small add-on model trained on specific images to help the base model better understand a particular character, environment, or object. Training works best when you have diverse images of your character showing different angles, lighting, expressions, and poses. In one of my previous videos about my consistent character creator, I explained how to automatically generate this very dataset from either a basic character prompt or a reference image, and then how to train a LoRa based on this dataset. For example, I created a LoRa on this character, and I just put in the LoRa into the LoRa's folder in ComfyUI. This is her LoRa. And now I can select it right here in the workflow and put the strength to 1. So I created this prompt with just some basic descriptions of her and the trigger word for the LoRa. And when I now click run, it will actually create that character. But for our beetle character, I tried something different. I used ChatGPT's image model to first generate a T-pose of that character, and then I asked for different poses, lighting setup, and emotions. And it was a pretty tedious process because details kept changing and often prompts violated their guidelines for some reason, but I didn't know why. But eventually I managed to get a pretty solid dataset. And I just opened Flux Gym, a local LoRa training tool that you can easily install via Pinocchio, and I've been using that in my videos for a long time now. I then auto-captioned the images, manually improving the captions by adding the emotions, shot types, and correcting some minor errors. And then I clicked train, and after about 40 minutes I had my character LoRa. So let's go back to the inpainting workflow and load in the LoRa for the beetle and change the prompt. Click run. And this worked really well, but since the proportions are a bit different and it also has antenna, we need to give it some more space to switch out the character here. So I go back to the mask and I just maybe add a bit of space for the antenna here. This worked much better. You can see how it filled up the space that I gave it for the antenna pretty well. By the way, all the images that you generate with this workflow will be saved out in ComfyUI output and in the Inpainting folder. So now that we have our first frames, let's transform the full video. For this, we are loading in the next workflow. This one will show us a warning that we are missing some models. And let's just start downloading both of them. While they are downloading, you can see that one of the nodes is not installed correctly. So let's go to Manager, install missing custom nodes, and install the ComfyUI MTB pack. Once that's installed, you can restart, and you can see all the custom nodes are here. Again, we are working from left to right, so let's zoom in on these models here. This one is already downloading, this one is already downloading as well, but we still need the 2.1 VAE. So let's click on that link right here and download that as well. We are also going to need the Clip Vision H. So let's click the link here and download that. And finally, the depth anything, we already should have that if we used the Inpainting workflow. In the notes, you can see the folder locations where these models need to go. So let's quickly put them there. One fun control model goes to ComfyUI Models, Diffusion Models. The UMT one goes to Text Encoders. The VAE goes to VAE. And the Clip Vision goes to Clip Vision. When they're on the correct place, click R and double check if all the models are loaded. And now we can start using this workflow. The first thing we need to do is upload our video. Next, we can set a resolution. Next, we're going to load in our start frame. Let's maybe not start with a beetle, but with amber here. And we need to write a short prompt. And you just roughly want to describe the person and the location and what they are doing. Next here is the important part. This is where you combine your control nets that you want to use. Let's start by deactivating all of them. So let's use the pose control net, but since we also want the camera movement as I explained earlier, we also want the line art, and when we activate the line art mask will also automatically be activated. And when we now click run, you can see that down here the pose will be extracted, and also the line art will be extracted here, and then they will be merged on top of each other. So this is basically the back end. Most of the time you don't have to go there. This will just combine your control nets automatically. But if you want to change some stuff, like for example, you can adjust the size of the character mask, and you can also blur the mask for your character here. Sometimes this can help if you get like artifacts around your character. You just might need to increase the blur radius, and this should usually fix it. Once all the stuff is extracted, you can see a preview of your control net up here. So let's just lean back and let this generate. Now the only other thing that you could change in this workflow here really are the steps. So use between 20 and 30, with 30 usually producing better results, but 25 is often fine too. And the result looks pretty good, even though the shadow is a bit extreme here. But we can always just change the seed and run this workflow again for another variation. But now let's try that again with our beetle character. I just switch out the image and the prompt. And this one is looking okay, I would say, but this is also a very challenging shot. So this is the way we would change characters using this workflow. But of course, you could also use this to restyle your video. Here, for example, I created a quick image-to-image workflow based on the example one by ComfyUI, and I just added a control net so that the structure of my face stays the same. So let's go back to the video workflow, switch out the start frame and the prompt to the animation, and click run. Now this is a good time to share that all these free workflows that we are sharing today are sponsored by our amazing Patreon supporters. Thank you so much for making these deep dives and research projects possible. If you want to get access to exclusive example files and our wonderful Discord community, consider supporting us. You can also get access to the advanced version of this workflow. Most of you probably will not need that, but let me quickly show you what you can do with it. Now this one has an automatic frame interpolator built in, so for example you could load in only every second frame, and then in the end it would interpolate the missing frames, allowing you to generate videos that are twice as long. It will also use an upscaling model that you can load in here to upscale the output video to the original input resolution. But one of the most important features for us was the more precise lip sync control. Let me show you how that works. Let me just load in one of the lip sync shots right here. And this is our transformed first frame. Now I'm changing the prompt to something simple like this. this. And now we can select the control nets that we want to use. But for this one, I don't want to use the line art because this is a static shot. So we can use only the pose. And I want to use the face mesh. This one uses the MediaPipe face mesh preprocessor to extract the facial movements. And then we mask out only the mouth. And for the lip syncing to work, it is really important for Vram that the mouth is in the correct place. And you can see the beetle has a slightly different facial structure than I have. So what we can do now is we can use this transform node here to put the mouth in the correct place. So after we transformed all the shots, we were really happy with these results. But you can also see here that the quality around the beetle suffered a little bit. And we really wanted to preserve as much detail as possible. So we had the idea to composite the beetle back on top of the original video. But for that, I have to be removed from the video, right? Now, if you have an Adobe subscription, you could use, for example, the content-aware fill in After Effects to remove the person from the video, or you could use our free CleanPlate creator workflow in ComfyUI. And here we are going to use the vase model. So make sure to download it from this link here and put it in your diffusion model folder. Next, you're going to need this VAE, this text encoder, and you can also use an upscaling model to later upscale the newly generated part to better match your video. This workflow is pretty straightforward to use. Just import your video down here, and in the next group, prompt for what you want to remove in the image. So here, for example, we want to remove the person. So I just put in person. This creates this bounding box around the person and a black and white mask. Then this white mask will be put on top of the video, so one video knows which area to replace. Next, you're going to create a prompt for the area that you want to fill in. So here we just want to create an empty forest in spring. You don't really have to change these settings here, but you can play around with the steps. And finally, you're going to set the final output resolution of your video. Then you're just going to click run, and one video will remove the person from the video. Now we considered creating a ComfyUI workflow that would automatically cut out the beetle and put it on top of the original video again, but ultimately we choose to do it manually for full control. We used After Effects, but you could use any video editing software, like for example the free DaVinci Resolve. But honestly, this is pretty optional, as many of the shots already look pretty amazing straight out of ComfyUI. Another one video workflow that we created for this project was the frame interpolation workflow. So you give an input frame, you give an output frame, and you let one fill in the stuff in between. Another cool thing that you can do with one video is change the camera movement in existing footage. So we had this one shot here that was originally static, but we thought it would look better with some camera movement, and it would be more dramatic and sad if the camera moved away from this poor little sad beetle. And for this we used KeyJ's Recam Master implementation that comes with his ComfyUI One video wrapper. You can just go to example workflows and just download the file right here. Import that into ComfyUI, double check your models, and then here you can select what kind of camera movement you want to add to your footage. Finally, it was time to put everything together in DaVinci Resolve. Oh, and wait a second. You might wonder why we choose to build this mask here. Well, I initially hoped that it would help the Flux workflow generate the face of the beetle in the correct place. In the end, it was actually not that helpful, at least not for image generation, as we relied more on the OpenPose preprocessor than on the depth preprocessor. But on set, it was really nice to have something real here to frame the shots. And especially in a movie that is about reconnecting with nature and going outside when you feel caught up in work, it was really nice to step outside of ComfyUI and build something in the real world. But now, without further ado, let me present to you an alternative ending for Kafka's The Metamorphosis. When I found myself transformed into this monstrous vermin, I didn't scream. I was worried about missing the train. Dad, I need to go to work. They said they were helping me, but really I was being hidden. My sister was the last one to look me in the eye. One day I found myself in a box. They didn't dare to kill me, but they threw me outside like garbage. Even out here, alone, I couldn't stop thinking about work. All this time I thought my work defined me, and now that it's gone I can finally see what remains. The forest doesn't ask anything of me. For the first time, I'm not performing, I just am. I used to live only for their approval. I was more insect back then than I am now. I hope you enjoyed this video and these workflows are useful and inspiring to you. If you create something with them, please send it to me or tag me in your work. I always love to see what you come up with. Thanks for watching and thank you to our lovely Patreon supporters who make these videos possible. See you next time.